So before I introduce Travis, though, I again want to thank our supporters. Please, everybody, remember that our programs are supported, and this series that we're doing is MS Conversations Now, and we are supported by Novartis and Bristol-Myers Squibb, sorry. And we have our digital exhibitors. We now have digital exhibitors. You can see them on the screen behind us. We have Biogen, and we want to let everybody know that Biogen has Tysabri and Tecfidera. I think those are two of their key medications. And then Novartis. Novartis is great. I mean, they got all these fantastic meds, and one of them just came out, and that's Kesimpta. And so you're going to learn about Kesimpta in the coming weeks from different presenters on different programs. And they also have Mayzent. We want you to know about that as well. And Genentech, of course, has one of the drugs that so many people are asking questions about these days concerning Ocrevus. So they're all great, fantastic medications, and we do hope that you are definitely using one at least, for your MS. Now we're going to get away from the MS topics and get more into Travis. All right, Travis gave me a nice long bio, so I'm going to read this, okay? And I'm going to try to go as quick as I can. But Travis is going to speak for about, I think we're going to have him speak for about 35 minutes, and then we're going to do Q&A with Travis. And for everybody that's got questions concerning anything to do with physicalness, good word, right? Physical activities with MS or wellness, please write in your questions. We do have a lot already written out. If we have to stay online an extended period of time with Travis, we will do that. Okay, so please write them in on the screen, and then I will ask them later on. Now let me introduce Travis. He's been a personal trainer for over 25 years, and 20 years has been specializing in multiple sclerosis and exercise. It is safe to say that Travis is passionate about helping people with MS. His career started working in mental health hospitals and acute care facilities. After that, he was the director of wellness programs for the National Multiple Sclerosis Society for the Fort Worth, Texas chapter. During his time with the NMSS, he developed a very unique personal training program that was later expanded to the Dallas MS Society's office as well. So let's just get Travis started here. It's pouring, okay? It's hard for me to hear, and I just want to get Travis started here, okay? Thank you very much, Travis.
Okay, well, thank you, MS Views and News, Stuart and Jill. We appreciate your efforts, especially circumnavigating COVID and making these videos online. Also, Dr. Okai, it's always a pleasure to hear you speak. So this is my first virtual experience for a program, and honestly, I'm super excited to be talking about what I'm passionate about. First of all, people always ask me, at various times, why exercise, specifically with multiple sclerosis? Well, exercise is a gateway to wellness. It's been proven to decrease fatigue, improve or increase strength, increase your energy, improve or increase balance, reduce stress and depression, improve or increase flexibility, increase and elevate your mood, increase cognitive function and mental clarity. It can improve bladder and bowel dysfunction. It can improve cardiovascular fitness. It promotes active independence. It increases confidence. The list is exhaustive of the benefits. And so I encourage you to research that a little bit. You can Google benefits of exercise for multiple sclerosis, but find the ones that are important to you. Like, what is it important to you to get out of this? Because the benefits are obvious, it's proven, but more importantly, make it specific to your own life. I always tell people, give yourself the very, very, very best chance to manage your life. This would be good advice even without MS, but MS presents tons of challenges. And I know that my friends with MS share them with me on a daily basis, and I'm always privileged to know the insights. But I'm saying with exercise, give yourself the very best chance at managing those. And then I always tell people too, another reason to exercise is because at some point, someday, we're going to have a cure, and make your body and your brain as ready as possible for the advances in medications and the advances in myelin repair and the eventual cure. So those are my why factors that you should. But They shouldn't be, your factors should be your own and not relevant to mine, but figure out why it's important to you. I thought to maximize our use of time tonight, I would basically focus on some tips, because exercise is too broad of a subject, and with multiple sclerosis being such a unique impact on each person, that sometimes general advice just sort of falls to the wayside. So I wanted to be very specific and give you about 7 really important tips that over the last 20 years have really become the core of what we do with our clients who are dealing with MS. So the number one tip, and these aren't necessarily in order of importance, although this one is critical. We know multiple sclerosis is a problem with the signaling from the brain to the muscles. And we know that MS doesn't attack the muscles, but it attacks the myelin sheath, and therefore you have a hard time getting a message to those muscles. So I always tell people that when you're starting an exercise program, minimize all the stressors. And stressors are things that make your MS act up, or as we referred to earlier, as a flare-up. It doesn't mean that your disease is necessarily progressing, but minimize the things. Now, there are some that are very, very common for people, like heat and stress and fatigue, fear of falling, self-consciousness. Those are some of the most prominent, but everybody has their own stressors, and you want to minimize those during exercise to give yourself the best opportunity to have a successful exercise class or routine. And then in that same vein, when you minimize the stressors, you want to maximize your signaling. And I say that because the more focused you are thinking about the exercise and the movement pattern that your brain and your body are about to execute an exercise, the better the result. So if we bring the stressors down and you increase the signaling and the thoughtfulness, you're going to have a much better experience. The next component is breathing. It sounds so cliche, but your breath has so much effect on your overall health and well-being that paying attention to how you breathe. And one of the things that I'll touch on tonight is that most people that I work with, and actually I do this myself, sometimes under stress, believe it or not, I'll hold my breath, and therefore limiting my ability to do my task. So just the other day, even though I preach this every day, it's such an ingrained neural pathway that I went to go move a heavy flower pot for my wife, and the first thing I did was take a deep breath. I grabbed that flower pot and I held my breath, and I immediately caught myself and said, do the same thing I would tell all my clients. Make sure that you're breathing during exercise. And not only that, but thoughtful breathing. So I encourage my clients to try and exhale when they're exerting force, which is sometimes a little contrary to their natural breathing patterns, but it really helps them focus on the mind-muscle pattern and the mind-muscle result if they're doing something new with their breath. So I would say inhale and exhale, breathing is really important, but most importantly, while you're exercising, don't hold your breath. I will talk a lot about wellness and exercise, even though to me they're kind of the similar aspect, but exercise has a traditional connotation of, you know, maybe in more intense physical activity, but I really believe in promoting wellness, which would include many more options, such as aquatics and yoga and tai chi and stretching and some physical exercise, of course, but breathing is a huge component of all of those. In all of the wellness classes, your breath has a lot of influence over your mood and your mental clarity and also your cardiovascular health. Okay, so the first one was to minimize the stressors. So if you're going to work out, make sure it's not hot, make sure you're not stressed, make sure you're not too tired, make sure you're not in fear of falling or self-conscious or whatever triggers you have to help maximize the signal. Work and be focused on your breathing. The next one is to navigate efficient movement and individualize your approach. This I spend a lot of time talking on in our classes and with my private clients, because inefficient movement will cause an increase in fatigue. And when we have inefficient movement for a variety of reasons, for sure, if our body doesn't move, I'll give you an example that you can see. If I wanted to reach for a can of soup off the shelf and I move my shoulder efficiently, I'm using the least amount of muscles to do the job. Now, if I had an impingement or bad signaling to my shoulder because of MS or pain, I might move a different way. But that's causing a lot of extra energy, and it's causing a lot of extra work, and it's causing a lot of extra tension. So instead of moving efficiently at the shoulder joint, for whatever reason, maybe I'm moving inefficiently, and that's going to cause me to be a lot more tired because that's compounding throughout the day and the week and the month. So we want to try to look at our bodies in the most efficient pattern of how we move. Now, sometimes we can't move efficiently. That's understandable. But sometimes we're moving inefficiently without knowing or because of just a habit. And I was working with an exercise program with my mother-in-law, she had a fractured hip. And she said, sometimes I think now I don't have any pain, but I'm just limping because it's habit. And that's certainly a possibility for a lot of people. So when we move a certain way for ease or comfort or what we think is just the safest way, we might be sacrificing efficiency. That's hard to tell on yourself, but I do recommend that if you work with a wellness professional, that's something that they can help observe. Certainly physical therapists can make a big help in that direction as well. The second part of that, moving efficiently, is having an individualized approach. So one of my, I would say, I say this all the time, but the point is that everybody's MS symptoms are different. Their history of exercise is different. Their non-related MS injuries could be different. So very, very important that you work with somebody that is understanding that everybody's got different goals. Going to a class where everybody is required to do the same intensity and the same activity might not be a good fit for people with MS because it should be very individualized based on those factors that I mentioned, which were history of MS and history of injury, also your history of exercise. So have you been athletic in the past? Did you grow up playing sports? Do you have any outside of MS? Do you have any issues with old injuries, maybe from a car accident or a football injury? But all those factors have to be taken into account because MS is already unique enough for each individual. So what I would recommend for the person on my left, I would probably not necessarily recommend for the person on my right. They have different muscle weaknesses, different movement patterns, different history of exercise. So navigating your efficient movement, even the way you sit, can be efficient or inefficient. So when you sit with good posture and you sit with your back supported and you're nice and tall, your body is automatically aligned, and both breathing and muscle tension are at their most efficient, and you could probably sit there comfortably a lot longer than if you were slouched in a chair. I'm using a lot different muscle structure to hold myself in this position, which can cause a lot of fatigue. So, of course, I'm talking fast so that we can get through the information tonight and I can get to the questions, but all of these issues can be explored over time with a wellness professional. Okay, so just to recap, we have the minimize the stressors, increase your signaling, breathing, navigate efficient movement, and individualize your approach. Okay, I'll finish up on individualize your approach. So the one thing I didn't talk about was everybody has different goals. Some people are trying to gain flexibility, some people balance, some people strength, some people endurance, some people reduce spasticity. So all of those goals have to be taken into account for developing your wellness plan. If somebody is trying to navigate around low back pain, I wouldn't want them to do any impact exercises or high intensity. I'd want to explore where that back pain is coming from. Similar to what Dr. Okai was saying, is just because you have MS, we don't consider that the iron curtain of what you're dealing with. So certainly the back pain could be from another activity or an old injury or part of the way that you move because of bad signaling to the legs. but you would want to work with somebody who's going to investigate that to individualize your approach. Okay, the next one is, so I alluded to it earlier in the sense that we wanted to work on the signaling between the brain and the body. So one really important way would be to visualize how your body is supposed to move, how a healthy body would move, and then reintroduce that muscle pattern so that you can retrain that muscle pattern. So going back to the example that I said earlier about the efficiency of moving your shoulder. So let's use the same example, but if I was going to reach for a can of soup, and I will say, let's keep MS in the equation for right now. So let's just say that because of my low back pain, I sit back in my chair. Now to get my arm up, I really have to tighten my neck muscles. So first I want to visualize how that moves. Does it move the same, or am I more efficient on my opposite side? So now I can visualize what this arm is supposed to do. I can just see what it looks like in my head. And then I want to reintroduce that movement. So I want to try not to tense this muscle just because I'm moving this one. If I have the ability to do that, then I want to retrain that muscle pattern. So I want to practice. It's called purposeful practice, that motion, where I'm not tightening the wrong muscle. I'm only using the good muscle. Now, let's go back and say that I don't have the ability to raise this arm because of MS, and I can't disengage this leg. That's where a wellness professional can help you reintroduce that movement by gently assisting you to do that motion. So maybe they're lifting the arm to reintroduce the pattern that you want to retrain. So it's visualizing the way the body should work, or the way you want it to work. It's reintroducing that movement pattern to the brain, because I might have been doing this incorrectly for years, unknowingly or knowingly, out of need or not need, but I did it for years the incorrect way. So I have to reintroduce the correct way and then purposefully practice. So there's all kinds of levels to build up to this. I'm just giving you a big picture so that you can start to develop your personalized wellness routine. Okay, another really important part of wellness is finding a supportive community. So that's not easy, but thank goodness with the evolution of the virtual world in the last 4 months, they're out there. And obviously keeping a diligent search for either a physical in-person supportive community, people that understand what you're going through, maybe that have some insight to MS. Other clients certainly have gotten great support and I would say appropriate motivation from friends. The converse is really tough. If you're working out in an environment that has a level of intensity that's beyond maybe what would be appropriate for you, there's a little bit of peer pressure, maybe a little bit of competition, and that can negatively affect the benefits of your exercise program. So positive community, of course, could be your family, can be your friends, can be your neighborhood, your local wellness facility. It can be PTs and OTs, certainly anything that you can glean from having a group of support and encouragement. So that's a huge component. The next one I'm going to spend a little more time on. Dr. Okai talked about it. Jill was asking about tips for conserving energy, and that's actually a huge bullet point in what I promote for part of your wellness plan is energy conservation. So first, it takes a little bit of time, but you have to identify your high energy times. So MS has symptoms and disease progression that's all over the board, and so does this. I have clients that wake up and have tremendous energy in the morning, and they want to get stuff done right away. And then I have other clients that don't get up until 10 or 11 and don't really have energy until late in the afternoon. And I even have some clients that have a tremendous amount of energy after 10 p.m. So it just really boils down to your unique personality, and be flexible because it could change. So if you start out thinking, oh, I've always exercised in the morning and that's when I'm going to do it. But if that's not your high energy time, then you have to compensate for that with your routine. So conversely, identify your low energy times. if you know that you always have a lull of energy at 3 p.m. or you're exhausted when you wake up in the morning, those are not the best optimal times to work out. So it's not that you can't, but it would take some adjustments to your routine. This is some of the stuff that really gets, it takes some due diligence, because it's not always fun to think about when you don't have energy, but it's important for you to know. I also encourage my clients to identify energy drains. So maybe it's not a time, but maybe it's a specific activity. Maybe it's getting dressed. Maybe it's working. Maybe it's dealing with the pets in the house. Something that, or some things that typically take your energy away. You would want to know what those are, so that you can strategically handle those and manage that. I always say too that you should identify and implement energy infusions. Now, that's just a phrase that I came up with because it is twofold. You need to know what gives you energy, and that can be all over the board. It could be deep breathing and a yoga class, but it could be writing a poem. It could be listening to music. It could be visiting with your kids or your grandkids. But there are certain things in life that just get you ramped up. And just to give you an example, talking about this and sharing this information is something that gives me energy. And it's interesting because people ask me, aren't you tired? And I said, no, actually, this just brightens me up and gets me motivated. It's creative. But there are things in your life that do that. And if there aren't, let's just say you're like Travis, nothing gives me energy, then it's time to start seeking that out and to try to find things that provide you energy. And it's just a little bit of observation. It's like visiting with somebody about this topic, and maybe you're exhausted and whooped and kind of in a bad mood. And then you visit with somebody else about another topic that you like, and all of a sudden you're kind of like, oh yeah, that was awesome. You have to identify it, but then more importantly, you have to put it into your life. So whatever those things are, if listening to your favorite music helps boost your energy, then you have to purposely, don't wait for the radio to come on and play your favorite song. Download that music and play it intentionally. If talking to your grandkids on the phone makes you get a little pep in your step, then purposefully put that into your life on a daily basis. So once you understand some of those concepts about energy conservation, then you can put together a wellness program that you have control over. So for instance, going back to what I said earlier, if you don't have energy in the morning, but that's the only time that you can work with a trainer, or your PT has time available, or that you really have this block of time, you can still do it. But we're just expecting a different level of intensity if you're exercising in that low energy level. And then the little caveat on the other side is, let's say you're all amped up and you go and work out, it's very easy to over push yourself and end up realizing, yeah, I felt great. I was on a little bit of a high. I just talked to my grandkids, and I went into the gym and I did a little too much, and I stayed a little too long, and then I was too tired for two days, or a whole day. So whatever the case may be. So energy conservation, but then how you infuse your wellness with that is really, really important. And that's kind of what brings me to the final tip on this, and it's thoughtful movement and brain health. And there's exercise is proving more and more important for the neuroplasticity of the brain, the relearning new things, and it just takes that consistency with activity. And here's how I wrap that all up in one. We should be exercising every day. And I know for a fact that people will tell me every single day, I don't have the energy to do that. I don't have the time. I don't have the resources. But here's what I mean by exercise every day. You might have 3 different workout plans. Exercise plan A is when you feel great, you're having a good day, and you've got your routine and you know you can do it and it feels good. Exercise routine B might be for the days that you're starting to feel a little, as my clients will share with me, MSy. I just don't feel right. I'm a little bit more tired, but I still have exercise B, which is a much different routine. It's more relaxing, more stretching, more wellness. And then on the days that you really feel crummy, really bad, whether it's more mental or more physical or a combination, but I still stay with my C workout, which is almost exclusively breathing and visualizing healthy movements. But that way you keep that consistency. You don't take a couple days off because you had bad MS days, and then, friends or family were visiting, and then we had car trouble, and then all of a sudden it's a week and you're like, man, I'll just start next month. That's where we get in trouble. The consistency far, far, far outweighs intensity. So developing those routines. So I'm going to quickly recap, and I want to be a resource for you. So I'm sure that somehow Stuart can share my information, or I can share this information with him and he can disseminate it. But it is important that you exercise. There's no doubt. So what I said first was I gave you that whole list of really important reasons, but make it personal. Don't do it because I say it's going to decrease your fatigue. Do it because you have a reason for doing it. And those reasons will be more instrumental in your long-term success. Okay? Remember to give yourself the best chance you can at managing life. Irregardless of MS, give yourself the best chance at managing life with exercise. It's a gateway to wellness. And then also just keep in mind that with the advancements of medications and a looming cure, put your body and your brain in the best possible light to absorb those treatments and do the best you can. So minimize stressors before you exercise. Whatever it is that makes your MS feel bad, minimize that as much as you can to increase your signaling. Breathing is really paramount, and try synchronizing your breath with exhaling during an exertion of force, okay? So whatever your exercise, if you're doing a little sit to stand, exhale when you push up, inhale when you sit down. So if you're doing a bicep curl, you would inhale as you go down and exhale when you exert force. So that'll just help synchronize your movement with your breath. Navigate efficient movement. Start to look for inefficiencies in how you move and see why you're doing it. Is it habit? Is it convenience? Is it because you're affected with MS? Break it down and then individualize your approach. So don't try to keep up. We have a saying in yoga that says, do not compare yourself on the person's next to you. Is stay on the mat, means stay in your own lane. Develop visualization, movement reintroduction, and work on retraining your body and brain to move more efficiently. Find and take advantage of a supportive community. On those days that you feel alone, that you feel like, why am I doing this? There's going to be those days. It happens, but we can't stay there. So find a community that's going to lift you up. Energy conservation. Identify your high energy times, your low energy times, what drains you of your energy, and what gives you energy. And whatever gives you energy, put it in your daily life, no matter what it is. Music, poetry, friends, family, whatever. Put it in your life. Okay, my friends, I'm going to see if there's any questions. I'm super appreciative of the opportunity to be here. I think MS Views and News is a great organization that's helping promote. So let's have some questions.
Thank you. Of course we have questions. We always have questions. Thank you, Travis. You did a fantastic job. I loved listening to what you were talking about. I plan on implementing some of it myself. All right. So everybody should know that everything that Travis just spoke about tonight will go onto our YouTube channel. So you will have the resource to see this again and again. And when we put it on the YouTube channel, I'll make sure that we put in the notes section the information that Travis would like to give to me. So that way, if any of you want to contact him, that you can contact him directly. Okay?
Great.
All right, great. So let's start. I have a lot on paper. We have a lot from the people that are here online. And the first one is from somebody that evidently knows you, because she says, "Hi, Travis. This is your friend from Sugarland. What is the best accent?" Wait, I don't have the accent, though, so I'll have to do away with that. What is the best exercise to do to strengthen the largest muscle of your glutes?
Well, I usually structure my recommendations based on what do you want to do. So for instance, most people that ask about their glutes, it has to do with standing or getting up from a seated position. So I recommend replicating what you want to do better. So if you're having a little bit of difficulty standing or maybe getting out of a chair without using your hands, then that's what you should do, is what we call the sit to stands or a modified squat.
Okay, great. And how can you improve your walking with this kind of exercise?
Is this a separate question or in relation to the glutes?
Relation to the glutes, yes.
Okay. So I would say that what happens, there are a lot of things that can happen that make us feel unbalanced when we're walking. And so one of the things that I recommend is starting in a position where you really eliminate or mitigate the fear of falling, and then practice the natural gait pattern. So practice shifting your weight from your front to your back and break down the stepping and the walking to minor movements and then slowly putting them all together. Whenever we are vulnerable to falling, there's a part of our brain that has a reasonable fear of falling, and it's legitimate. It's not imaginary, it's legitimate. But that takes signaling power away from actually doing the movements. So keeping yourself in a safe environment and practicing the small steps of stepping.
Great. Thank you for that. So next question, how can you strengthen your core while sitting? For a person that's like in a wheelchair or a scooter, how can they strengthen their core?
So there's been a huge movement over the last 10 years because a lot of core exercises were done with, I'm going to show you from the side, flexion of the spine. And that flexion of the spine is unfortunately not good for your back. So there's been a huge movement to do what we call core activity while your spine is in a neutral position. So one of my favorite exercises is ball presses. So it's simply having a stability ball on your lap and your arms straight out. And if you press down, you'll immediately feel your core and your abdominal area strengthen up. The other thing that you can do without any exercises is just sit in a nice comfortable chair. The wheelchair is fine with the back. Lean against the back and literally bring in your abdominal core, just sucking in the muscles, not your breath, and practicing the contraction and relaxation of the abdominal muscles. There's a lot more, and there's a lot of things that I can share with you, via video too at some point. So lots of good core exercises.
So continuing on that thought, I'm reading through some of the notes on paper, and a person writes, I'm always looking for ways to improve my core now that I'm in a wheelchair. I have resistance bands for my arms and my legs, but getting to the floor takes so much energy that it pushes me into a pseudo exacerbation, making me too tired to do much else. What can you do to help me with this?
Okay, so if I understand your question correctly, it's core exercises in the chair. So in addition to presses and contraction of the abdominal core, simply sitting off the back of the chair and doing circles is a great way to activate your obliques, low back, and abdominal muscles. And then also, this is kind of counterintuitive, but you can do a crunch, an abdominal crunch in the chair. If you scoot forward a little bit on the chair and then lean back, so I'm in a reclined position, you can cross your arms and just pull yourself up off the back of the chair. But all of those would be good. So,
okay, great. Thank you for that. So how do I get a next question? Different, a little bit different. How do I get my heart rate up if I'm in a wheelchair?
Good question. So there are ways to do it. Certainly, if you are able to participate in physical therapy or at a gym, there are the exercise cycle for the arms, which you can pedal. They even have a home version, which is very inexpensive, that you sit on a table and you can pedal. But also, there's a lot of good ways you can do it. So either with or without hand weights, you can do cross punching quickly. You can do up and down motion. You can actually go and just reach side to side in a fast pace, and you will get your heart elevated for sure.
Great. So another fan of yours, I have to say it because she wrote it. The MS Gym is a great site for MS exercises. Okay,
all right.
You said it. Now we're off to the next one.
Okay.
What exercises are best to improve your balance when your balance is really off? Can you improve balance while sitting?
Okay, you can. So balance is a really tricky part of the equation because it can be from several different causes. So it can be vestibular, it can be visual, and it can also be somasensory, which I'm just going to quickly highlight those. If you're having a vision problem, oftentimes that will affect your balance. So if you have vision problems in one eye, it's hard to tell perception, depth perception, therefore making it difficult. If you have an inner ear issue, so a infection, inner ear infection, or sinuses and the ear is clogged up, that can cause balance issues. And then also the way that your body responds to the feeling of what your feet are feeling on the floor, or the way that you're interpreting your environment. So unfortunately, all those three balance issues require a slightly different technique. But I will say that probably they can all be practiced in a chair for sure. You can work on, so I don't want to go into too much detail, because if it's something like vertigo, again, you don't want to put yourself in a vulnerable position. But in a chair, you can still work on holding your arms out and your core up, and you can tip yourself to one side to where you feel like you have to pull yourself up. And you can actually go side to side, feeling a slow decrease in balance and then increase as you pull yourself back up. If that's easy, you can try closing one eye. And if that's still easy, you can close another eye, and you can do it without sight, and that will help challenge any movement that you do with your eyes closed in a safe environment, and seated is very much better than standing. Then you will be working on your balance.
I would never be able to do what you just did, because I have such a problem with vertigo.
Yep, and that's a tough one. That's why sometimes the balance, knowing why you're having the balance issue, is more important than what to do about it.
Okay, thank you. So continuing on the same line, please provide some ways to help improve leg strength when you have balance issues due to pronation of the feet.
Okay, so that's a very common problem, is that the feet are turning in. So it makes your ankle want to roll out, and does provide significant challenges. So there are ways that you can stabilize your feet from turning in. So for sure, with some of our clients, what we'll do is we'll actually hold their feet down while they practice assisted squats by using a bar. You can also try putting a block in between your feet, because that will help stabilize them from rolling in. And then conversely, you can sit on the edge of a table or the edge of a chair, and you can do leg extensions. All right, so that's not working on balance, but that's working on quad strength. You can lie on your stomach, and you can do leg curls with or without ankle weights, and that would work your hamstrings. And then inner and outer thighs, it's really easy to train with a rubber band or something that you can squeeze. Not a rubber band, but an exercise band that you put around your legs, and with resistance you push out. And then you could use a pillow, or sometimes we use a roll of paper towels, and you squeeze in. So you're going to activate all the major muscle groups in the legs without really kind of relying on them from pronating, or worried about them pronating.
Okay, thank you for that. Going on to a different question, how is chest wall muscle weakness upon exhalation managed in MS?
Ooh, that might be a question better suited for a physical therapist or a cardiorespiratory therapist.
Okay. All right, so we're going to stop with the rest of that question. Can you tell us about what are the best benefits of exercise for those with multiple sclerosis?
Well, I would say that when I had to narrow it down to kind of the best, I would just say that it comes down to two things that I think are the most important, but promotes active independence and increases confidence. Everything is important. Reducing fatigue and increasing energy, strength, balance, all those are critical. But people that feel like they are losing confidence, and people that feel like they're losing independence, that to me is an overriding positive effect of exercise.
Okay, thank you. Hydro classes, can you tell us about that and why it's a good option for people with MS?
Yeah, so aquatics classes are a fantastic option for people. One, the water has a cooling effect. So as your body temperature heats up with maybe traditional exercise, being in a pool and being cool by the water is a tremendous benefit for people that suffer from the heat sensitivity. In addition, there's equal amount of resistance over the entire body. So think about when I have to hold a weight in my hand, that weight is focused on my wrist and focused there. But when I move it in the water, I have equal amount of resistance over my whole arm. So it's a really good way to train the body. And then of course, you really mitigate the fear of falling and the pain associated with that. So in a pool, you have great buoyancy and the assistance of the water as well as the resistance. So I highly recommend that for people. And I always recommend that you should try it and see, because some people don't like it, but some people absolutely love it. But that's the beauty of having multidisciplines. You can pick and choose.
Thank you for that. Now, person wants to know what's the best way to strengthen a weak leg. And would you opt then, since you're talking about hydrotherapy, would that be a better option in this case?
Yeah, quite possibly. So first, I would say that I always challenge people when they tell me that they have a weak limb, and not because I think that they're wrong, but I always think about, what if we could increase the signaling? Does the leg have enough strength in it to do what you want it to do, and we have bad signaling? Or are we really having muscle atrophy and the leg is significantly weaker, but you have a good signal? So because those two things are a little bit different in my approach, I would say that that the hydrotherapy and working out in a pool would be a great option. And I would just put a little bit more emphasis into using that leg as much as you use your stronger leg, and have it naturally balance out in the pool. But certainly traditional exercise where you're really determining, is it the quadricep that's weak, or the glute, or the hamstring, or all of it? But you can definitely specifically target whichever ones are weaker, and a physical therapist would be great at helping you determine that, and so would a personal trainer.
Great, thank you. We got several more questions, and these are just like getting so good. I mean, they're all great questions, but some of these are really getting intense, but just moving things along here. My husband has mostly lost the use of his hands, and his fingers are contracting where he can't straighten a lot of them out. He's in a power chair and watches TV all day. Is it too late for PTs to significantly improve his hand function?
I would say it's never too late to put some effort into it. So one thing that's very frustrating to me about that situation is that when we develop weakness in the hand, most people want to automatically gravitate to squeezing things, trying to strengthen their hand. And what happens is that we're already what I call flexor dominant, meaning my hand already flexes, but I'm having trouble with the extension. So giving some stretches for him would be a great way to start to open the fingers up. So literally, if he's unable to open his own hand, literally either using his other hand, or maybe you can help him, but just gently stretching the fingers open. And then massaging, light massage in the forearm is very helpful, because there's a lot of activity here that contributes to that tightness. And then when you feel like, okay, they're starting to open a little bit, having your husband focus more on the extension rather than squeezing, which is really just a very common misconception. We feel weakness and we want to strengthen up. So we get those balls and we get things and we squeeze them. But what we want to do is work on stretching. So opening the fingers one by one, opening the hand all together. If you lay the hand palm up, you're actually letting gravity assist you gently with stretching the hand out, and then massage here. And I think that'd be a great way to start.
Great, thank you. All right, next one is like a multi-part question between two different people asking close to the same question, but not quite. So combining them, here we go. Are there any exercises I could do to help with heel drag? Most people have issues with foot drop, but especially when I'm fatigued, I tend to drag my heels. I've had to toss several pairs of socks because of worn holes in just the heels of the feet. And also another person at the same time who just wants you to explain more on foot drop. So I'll let you take it away from here.
Okay, I would say the foot drop is a lot more common of an issue than the heel drop. However, I'll start with the heel drop first. So actually, this is for both. So for both heel drop and foot drop, the point of contact or the point of contention or the thing that comes to our head is that the toes or the heel aren't clearing the ground. And it's a very frustrating thing for my clients. But what we don't think about is what's going on, what's happening up the chain that's causing that to happen. And quite likely, it is something in the hip or the hip flexor that's not bringing that leg up at an appropriate height. Now, quite possibly, it is also what we call the shin muscle or the dorsiflexion or your calf that's also not contributing. And that may not be firing because of MS. It may not be firing because the muscle pattern has not been trained, or you haven't been doing stretches or exercises. So first, I would evaluate if you have muscle tightness or muscle weakness in the calf or the dorsiflexion, which is in front of the shin. And then depending on that answer, I would look up the chain and think that there's probably something not moving efficiently in the hip. And then I would just try to look at that into a mirror and say, oh yeah, I'm having trouble lifting my hip. And then you could probably seek out somebody to help you work on hip strength to build that back up. The heel drop is, I think in my 20 plus years, I think I've only worked with a couple people. The foot drop or the toes not lifting is a much more common issue. And again, everything that I said earlier can be applied to this. So working on it in a comfortable environment, minimizing your stressors, trying to lift the toes, and working on that dorsiflexion muscle in the shin. It's a really thin muscle. As matter of fact, a lot of us forget we even have a muscle in the shin, because when we hit our shin, it feels like you're hitting right to the bone. But just to the left or the outside of that shin bone, you have a nice, long, thin muscle that probably doesn't, it's the furthest from your brain. So I feel like it has the longest signal to go to. And that's why I think it's one of the most common symptoms for MS. So focused movement, stretching, finding out if you have muscle weakness versus muscle tightness, and then put an exercise plan together with your wellness professional to target those muscles.
Great, thank you for that. We have like 5 questions at the most left here. But before that, I just want to remind everybody that this program is being video recorded, not just with Travis, but also with Dr. Okai that was on earlier. And hopefully in less than 10 days, we will have this program put up onto our YouTube channel, at which time everybody that was registered for tonight's program will be sent an email to let them know that we do have this up, and we'll give you the link that you can click on and, watch it again and again, or share it with others. That would be great too. All right, so next great question, okay? Again, they're all great, but, people need to know these things. So let's talk about neuroplasticity and how, let me get you started with neuroplasticity, and then I have other questions to ask regarding that, okay?
Okay. Yep. So brain health is becoming, in the last maybe, again, 8 to 10 years, has become a really hot topic. And there's just tons of great research that shows how your body and your brain are completely connected. The old song, your shin bone's connected to your foot bone. It's all connected. So the healthier your brain is, the healthier your body is. And when you move, you're doing all the things that your body needs to do to manifest oxygen and blood flow and make your body do what it's supposed to do and make your brain do what it's supposed to do. So neuroplasticity, more specifically, is keeping your brain with the ability to learn. And it's a huge neuroscience hot topic right now, and the links between that and exercise are undeniable. So just to quickly give you an idea, people that are on have been tested with like a memory test, and the ones that are doing physical activity resoundingly remember more of what was presented. Now, I don't believe that that was done specifically with MS, but it's just a general population study. So moving your body increases the healthiness of your brain. Clear as that.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I don't have any questions to ask. So we're going to go on to the next one. All right. The next one was, what can you say, or what is best exercises to do, and also how to get a person reincorporated to even do exercise when they're over 60 years old?
Okay, good question. So I don't have any favorite exercises, but like specific ones, but I will tell you that my approach is to really mimic what you want to improve in your life. So people will say, well, should I ride the stationary bike? Should I do strength training with weights? I said, honestly, what's going to make the biggest difference in your life is what you enjoy and where you see and feel improvement, because that's what will keep you going with this. And so if you're having trouble tying your shoes, then I would look at more flexibility training. Not even a specific exercise, but just things that would make you more flexible so that you can do what you want to do. If you are having trouble getting in and out of the car, I would just say, let's figure out some exercises that are going to help you do that. And then there are some things that maybe don't help you with anything specific, but you love riding the stationary bike, then do that. So it's really a personal thing. I did talk a lot about how individualized it has to be. So that's my point to that. As far as getting somebody reintroduced to them, there's a lot of things that cause behavior change. And in my experience, it's a multi-level approach, because some people are very logical. And it doesn't matter how much emotion I put into how important this is, they just want to know the facts. So if it's somebody who's very logical and very focused on facts, I would give them the facts of why exercise is important. If it's somebody on the other end who is very emotion driven, I would try to find something that's super fun and entertaining and engaging, and that will probably get them to start to open the door. And I'm available literally to have a conversation with anybody to help them make that decision, or maybe to give them the right information that they need to make that decision.
Okay, thank you for that. So going back though to those that are over 60, is there anything that they can watch on some network somewhere, you know, to get them involved, maybe with doing exercise virtually with other people in their same age group?
Yep. So there are a lot of opportunities. I mean, the internet is filled with opportunities. And then the shout out earlier was actually to another, not my facility, but it was to another gym called the MS Gym. And I know that they have a good reputation. Mindset also has some Facebook classes and things like that. I just, the one hesitation I have is knowing that this is an appropriate exercise for that person, right? And so just picking something off the internet or joining a group may or may not be the right intensity. So once you get that, what you're looking for, there are a lot of good options, and hopefully soon COVID will be moving out and we can do things in person again.
Do you know somebody upstairs that can help get COVID out of here quickly?
I'm doing my best.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so that's it. We've asked the last question. I know that we're under a time restraint here, so we were supposed to be ending, and we're good. I mean, I hope everybody enjoyed tonight's program, and going forward, we just want to again thank Travis for coming on. This was fantastic of you, and we have our supporters. We just want to make sure that we thank them again. Of course, we have Novartis and we have Bristol-Myers Squibb, and we're just going to say thank you to everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Okay, have a great night. We will be back again next month and doing this more and more. Check our website. You could see everything that's coming up, you know, with our upcoming events. There's quite a big list, but I don't have time to explain them all. Thank you again, everybody. Good night.